Vivek Sangupta, the key to success, Vivek Sangupta.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage this evening musical treasure and great violinist of all over the world, Mr. Yitzhak Perlman. Mr. Yitzhak Perlman had just been introduced to a very fortunate audience at Lincoln Center. This was November 1995. And as he had done countless times before, he picked up his Stradivarius violin, put it on his shoulder, put his chin on the violin, and started playing. And the most wondrous music emanated out of that stage and enveloped everybody. And within 30 seconds of that starting concert, bang! There was a sound, almost like a gunshot. And everybody knew exactly what that was. There was no mystery about it. Every musician or any violinist who has always experienced that. It was a broken string. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, distinguished guests, friends, put yourself in Yitzhak Perlman's shoes. What would you have done at that moment? You got hundreds of people in the audience at Lincoln Center. You're on stage, and you've got a broken string on a violin. I know what I have done. I actually do play the violin. I would have probably frozen, but then I would have had to have got another violin. No doubt about it. You can't continue playing on a 3-string violin. Or if there was no other violin, I would have had to get a string and actually replace that string on the violin, which would have taken 10 minutes. The options were clear. He had to have changed the violin. But that evening, Yitzhak Perlman refused to give in to those options. He refused to believe that he would have to change the violin. And you could see the shock on people's faces when he took a moment, composed himself, closed his eyes, then turned back to the conductor, nodded, and he continued playing with that 3-string violin. And he put that violin back on his shoulder, and he continued with the concert. And the music that he played with passion, he played with power, he played with such purity that nobody had ever heard music like that before. And of course, when he ended, the audience erupted in applause that was thunderous. They hadn't heard anything like that before. And all he did was smile, and he told the audience, sometimes it is the task of the artist to find music in whatever you have left. Think about that. He chose not to go and repair that broken string or to get another violin. He chose to continue with what he had left. That is such a powerful metaphor for all of us in business and in our personal lives. Do we focus on what we're missing, on our weaknesses, or do we focus on what we have and our strengths? And do we try and build on our strengths? That is the message. That is the real key to success. And this story has really made me think about it in several ways. Do we really focus on what we're missing, or do we focus on not even all our strengths, but 1 or 2 key strengths? What is our real calling? If you can find that passion that you have, or whatever it is that you want to do or you're good at, that's what we all need to focus on. I want to also share another story. It's a personal story, and so we can see a little bit differently. We saw the professional side of Yitzhak Perlman. Of course, the reason why he even reached that pinnacle in his life was because he was following that theory all his life. His passion was playing the violin, and so that's how he got to that stage. So obviously it was a professional setting. But I recently came across an individual who I would say is probably the most inspirational that I've ever seen or heard his story. His name is Nick Whiteshake. I don't know if you've heard of him. You may have seen his picture on paperbacks in the mall or in the store. But he was born in 1984 without any limbs. Oh, yeah. I can think about it, about 3 foot 2 inches tall, no limbs, Of course, luckily he was born to very loving parents, and they treated him exactly the same as any other child. At the age of about 4 or 5, he started to realize that he was different, right? And so that's when it started. At the age of about 8, he went into severe depression. He used to pray a lot. His parents and his family was religious, and he used to pray a lot, and he would pray to God, God, please give me hands and legs. And of course, he didn't get any hands and legs, and so this was a constant rejection. But let's go back to the theme. What was he focusing on? He was focusing on what he didn't have, the broken string. At the age of 10, he actually tried to commit suicide. The poor guy, he just didn't know what to do. But the only thing that stopped him was the knowledge that if he did commit suicide, his parents would be so depressed and so sad. And so he didn't commit suicide. At the age of 15, his life turned around. He was into reading the scriptures, and he picked up a story from the scriptures, which basically taught him that you can either be angry for what you don't have, or you can be thankful for what you do have and focus on the positive. And that's when his life turned around. At the age of 19, he was talking to 300 high school kids, one girl right in the middle of a speech, one girl right in the front, started crying, looking at him on stage, and she came up and she stopped and said, "Can I just come up and give you a hug?" And of course she did, and then she told him and the audience that, "I'm just so glad that this is the first time I've heard that that somebody's loving me, and that I can be the way that I am and be accepted for it." And that's when he knew that public speaking was his calling. He turned around his life and he became a public speaker. He's done more things in life than probably any of us in this room will do. Skydiving, so you name it, he's done it. And he's turned his life around, and he actually has visited 57 countries and is talked to, I think, 13 presidents, multi-million people around the world. So I guess the end of the story is, or the moral is, are we going to be focusing on the broken string, or do we want to focus on our strengths? I'm a Toastmaster.